but also pool members who I think use the playset really extensively because it's right at the front door of the pool. The design, I think, was included in the packet of the one that was chosen. It was our wish, at the start of this whole process to kind of replace that age level for playsets that would appear, or sorry, for the playset that was there. There was a small racing car, a small tractor, a little tunnel you could go through. And the only more advanced thing was a balance beam structure that was up on the kind of east side of Post Farm Park. And so the one that was chosen is ADA accepted because it has a couple features that are for that. The $30,000 cost, which was the lowest of the two bids, includes. Oh, thank you. It includes that barrier there, which, like one that I had looked at and shown to Brian, had not included. It also includes professional installation. So while this says, I think the design that's one page up, it's about 30 by 30, and would be the area of the barrier. You can see there's a transfer station there for children with mobility issues, and so I think it hits that age group that a lot of pool members use, and it also is a benefit for the surrounding community, people on the other side of university. Like if I wanted to go to a playground after the removal of this Post Farm Park, I'd have to walk to Stevens Street over there on the Madison side. So it's not, the world's most extensive place that I know that I think Kate had a question of like, did we approve of the design or, from our end? We were fine with the design. I think we just wanted to avoid something that was, complete like neon colors that are garish that someone in the garden might not want. And so, while it could be nice to have more playset, this is the playset that our donations in the village have gotten us at this time. And I also, we really think that it would be beneficial to have it in as soon as possible. I was hoping to actually have it done by, by the start of the pool season this year. And I'll just close with that, but hopefully it'll go in for next year. So thanks for your time. Thanks for serving on the pool committee. We really enjoy being members. So with that, I'm gonna just step back.
That's fine, Michael. You can stay on. In fact, why don't we just jump down to item 7, discussion for Post Farm Park playground structure. Dane, do you have anything more to add before we just open it up to the committee?
Sure, yeah, I can kind of reshare the screen again, but yeah, basically kind of what I think the um discussion around this was essentially there was a variety of contributions and funding kind of put together for making the purchase for this structure. So really the kind of the question I was bringing to you guys from the village administrator was asking our pool membership if they wanted to contribute to fundraising for this structure in any way. I know I think that could be achievable. I know the pool season's coming to an end. I have a way to communicate to the pool membership still via email and whatnot. So I think that was more so what we wanted to kind of get everybody's thoughts on, and then from there I can, kind of work with whoever necessary at Village Hall to make that setup happen in order to, get contributions and stuff for it.
Yeah, the board has already approved this project, committed to it, and will make up the difference in the funding after all the donations are in. So it's moving forward in that sense, and it's just a matter of whether any other organizations or members or whatever wish to contribute to the project, including the Shorewood Swim and Dive Club, whatever. So now just open it up to committee members. Do you have any questions or comments?
Mark, I think you maybe just answered this just to clarify for me. We can move forward with it as it is right now, and any fundraising effort that Dane's talking about to go to go out to pool members would just be to lessen the impact on the village's contribution. Is all? Okay.
That's how I understand it. Kate, is that how you understand it as well?
Exactly. And my question is, my understanding was this is about $30,000, and so Michael has generously donated the first 10,000. The league has matched that at 10,000, and then the village voted last week. The trustees voted to fill that remaining 10,000 gap. However, I think there was a question mark of if Bocce was going to throw in any extra. So I just don't know if we have the numbers on Bocce yet, and if for some reason we did open this up to pool members and we went over $30,000, like we fundraise more than that, then what would happen? I guess would we get more play structure, or would we, I don't know, give money back to the league? That's one question I have too. I don't know if we would have that problem, but
That'd be a good problem to have,
yes.
but the answer is I don't think we know what we would do. So I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
I could probably fit like however we market the fundraising or however it's done. Maybe we can word it as like there's a goal, like the fundraising goal. And just depending on, especially with the pool season ending, like depending on how many people see it or look into it, maybe it can stop at that goal or something like that. I guess I'm not too certain on the exact specifics again of that exact amount, but I can figure that out. So
I like that idea. I have a question just as an outsider here, new to the committee. What is the league? Can you clarify that for me?
Yeah, it's basically a charitable foundation that works on Shorewood projects pretty much exclusively. So they run various events in the village, and then whatever they raise net of their cost is contributed back to village projects.
Okay, thanks. And what's the full name? The league?
It,
Oh,
you know,
you
I'm so used to calling it the Shorewood League that I'm not sure what the official title is. I'd have to look it up online.
I feel like
Sorry.
it might be the Sherwood Hills Village League or something.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
Oh,
there's the
thanks.
link.
Thanks for the link. I'll take it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll take it.
thanks,
That's cool.
Michael.
Thank you.
legal name is, I don't know.
Sherwood Hills Community League, it says. So
Okay, there you go. Yeah, the Shorewood Hills
thanks.
also has a foundation. So we've got a couple organizations that work in this particular vein. So,
Thanks. Thanks.
any other thoughts, questions? I don't think this is really an action item for the committee per se. But any other questions for Michael or Dane at this point in time on this project?
No, but just point out in the chat, Michael put a comment in the chat about the remainder is at least 9,500.
Yeah.
So maybe Dane, that's your target, your goal for the fundraising.
So then are we authorizing that, or is it just more of an inform FYI Dane is going to do this? Like fundraise from the pool members, I guess.
I guess in this case, my intention was just to be an FYI to the pool committee to get
Okay,
their
cool.
thoughts on that.
Awesome.
And I think I'll have to figure out, like I said, I'll have to figure out like how we would structure the fundraising, because there's got to be, again, like if we have to do this fundraising route like through the league still to fundraise even more, like I'll have to figure out how like to set up a site for that or something that people can go to. So I guess I'll talk with Brian kind of after this and he can kind of guide me on that next part. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how the checks or the money should be directed at this point. It's probably to the Village of Shorewood Hills with a memo line that it's a contribution to the play set. But yeah, by all means, talk to Brian to work out those formalities, and we'll move ahead.
Yeah, and I can once it goes into like actually determining like the details of like how it'll be constructed or placed within that area or whatever, I can kind of provide an update on that too.
Great. If there's nothing more on that subject, we will move on to pool manager's report.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have too much to talk about. Season is ending in a week, so we close a week from today. So it's getting closer and closer. As slowly as it feels like it goes still though, too. Um, so in the past, since our last meeting, we had the middle school party we hosted, a high school party. Those were all at night. Those are pretty fun slash chaotic events to run at the pool. So those both went pretty well. And then last night we had our membership party. Um, we had a decent turnout for the weather conditions, I would say. So it was the best it probably could have been. But otherwise, right now we're dealing with the kind of um, seasonably odd weather with this cold, a little bit cold, but the pool is very much warm right now. So that's been good to be able to maintain that as well. The other thing I was going to note, the shade structure that was ordered for the east side of the pool, that structure arrived last Monday. So it's in Village Cold Storage right now, but they delivered it. So we have the structure. So when I get a chance to get here to the next step I'll be working on then is kind of the who's going to construct it and then do the concrete work for it as well. So I'll be working through that process. I did some kind of detailed work with Terry over the summer in terms of like figuring out the best placement for it on that east side where the footings will go. So there'll be probably obviously there's more meetings to be had, I think, with contractors or whatnot, but we'll probably be just adjusting a water line or speaker wire that's already kind of back in those areas. As far as I know, currently though, the footings won't be into the deck at all. They will be on the opposite side of the fence, at least initially as of now. We were kind of discussing how that might work and whatnot. So I'll have another update on that at some point. So that should be cool though when it is installed. So
Is that where the current shade structure is now?
yes, it is
Okay.
on that east end. So it'll replace that essentially. And
Yeah.
that one is in, at least to of what I determined, that structure is in rougher condition than the structure in the baby pool. Even though they are very much look older. The one on that east side is in pretty rough shape.
Yeah, and we decided that it could not go on the south side because of issues, easement issues with the sewer district because of the work they've done there. So it was either the baby pool or the east side, and I think that the east side, as you say, is in worse shape, and we'll make it work. Okay.
But yeah, I guess other stuff I would just note, you brought up that south side. I know they've been those plantings over there have been getting watered and whatnot for like many weeks now. I think I've noticed at least a little bit of growth on some of the trees that have been up along that fence. So that's been cool to see. Otherwise, I know there's some like plants here or there that are either, getting too much water, too much sunlight, or looking a little rough. At least as far as I know, it's like I think there's a warranty on all of the plantings in that area for a certain amount of time. So I think it'll probably be a process of just like observing of how it develops as the seasons change and it gets back to spring and whatnot going into next year as well in terms of its overall condition. Um, Other than that, I don't have too many other updates on that south side stuff. I think it's for the most part wrapped up in that area. Those fence coverings that we have that are on that side, on the ones on the side of the pool are like seasonal ones I bought before the season started or we already had. So those will come down when we close. But on the other side of it, which you really can't see from the pool, but if you go on the other side, it looks really nice. There's like a really nice more commercial grade fence cover. So as far as I understand, that will stay up during the winter then, and that covers that entire south side as well. So that I'm hoping will be pretty durable throughout the winter months as well.
Dane, will you talk to Brian about making sure that this responsibility for the landscaping on the south side of the pool moves out of your hands and into the Parks Committee, the forest or whatever? But I think at this point, um, you're done with that part of the project, but somebody obviously is going to have to follow up because some of that plantings will not survive or have not survived. So
Yeah,
we get a handoff there so it doesn't fall between the cracks.
yeah, I don't want to confuse that with I haven't been doing much work on that at all. So
I
mostly
understand, but
since
I don't want them to think that you're responsible when in fact it really should be parks or forestry or someone else.
yeah. Yeah, the
So,
village forester, he's been giving me updates too, so he's definitely keeping an eye on it.
yeah, great.
I
Anything
have
else, Dane? Oh, go ahead,
I
Jess.
just have a question, Dane, about the sunshade then. You said it's
Yeah.
going outside the fence. Does it have any impact on the trees that are there, or will those be untouched?
Not that I know of. I don't know if me and Terry are tree experts, but as far as I know, is like that area, it's not going to be like up against those trees at all necessarily. So it'll be the posts that go vertical would be on the outside of that fence, and that area is all flat ground. There's light poles that are already in that same space as well. Between there. So the posts that go upwards would be on that side of the fence, but the rest of it would be cantilevered over the deck, basically.
Yeah, and I guess I'm just mostly concerned about the installation. I suspect that's not
Put it-
hand dug and poured. So like there's machinery that's involved in that. Can it avoid the trees successfully is my concern.
Gotcha. Yeah, I believe so. That'll help that the pool will be closed, like when we go through that process. At least as far as I understand, like the one contractor we met with, they seemed like they could be pretty accommodating, or in terms of they had an idea how they would be getting in there.
Right.
They would potentially probably be doing that from the pool side, not
Okay.
the tree side, basically. So I'm assuming they would be rolling back some of that fence, and whatnot. So,
Okay, thanks.
yep.
Anything else for Dane at this point on pool manager's report, miscellaneous items? Hearing and seeing none, let's move on to discussion possible action on Perfect Mind. So I'll open this discussion. So 5 years ago, a previous pool manager, Elena, recommended to us that we go with Perfect Mind. It was a rough startup, as you may know. It was difficult, and I think part of the problem was Elena was not as familiar with the software as she thought she was. But beyond that, it's complicated software. It's sophisticated. It has installations in places like Chicago and New York and Los Angeles that just are well beyond what the scope of what the village requires and needs. And so it has made it difficult. And I know that there have been some concerns. I've talked to Julie, our village treasurer, just about the accounting that it does within the system and how difficult it's been for her to translate that into her bookkeeping entries. And so that handoff between that system and our village accounting system has not been easy. So for a variety of reasons, there's time to think about whether we should move to another piece of software. Our contract, our 5-year contract expires in November. And pursuant to the contract, it automatically extends for periods of 1 year. I'm not sure about the pricing. That probably has to be renegotiated. In any event, the question is whether we want to have that happen or whether we just want to notify them. I believe it's 30 days prior to the termination of the contract that we will not be renewing. My only concern with moving on is that it's going to take time to do a due diligence and find another software package that really works. Now, maybe there wasn't a lot offered at the time 5 years ago. We struggled with that. I'm hoping that this time round there will be software that we can identify fairly quickly that meets all our needs. But anyway, that's a process. And of course, the clock will be ticking from the moment that we terminate the contract to get the new software up and running, which is usually the critical date I would think would be, early March, because it needs to be in place before the enrollment process begins. And probably there's a good bit of setup that needs to be done and so on. So I just want to see where committee members were. I'm certainly leaning towards terminating the contract, but there is that puts us on the clock, puts Dane on the clock to find another piece of suitable software and get it up and running before the next pool season. So that's my long introduction on the process. I'll turn it over to Dane and see if he wants to add anything more before opening up to the committee.
Yeah, I could just give some context. So basically the membership software that we started using in 2021, it was called Perfect Mind. It's now called Explore Recreation. It's the same software. But essentially, what we use that software for, is to basically process all things related to memberships, profiles, who's purchased a membership, who hasn't, how they scan in when they walk into the pool, how we sell things, point of sale, stuff like that. So that's what we use it for at the pool. And then separate from that, within that, there's other parts to it that involve, program registration. So those are kind of the two main things. And so I was around when we started using it. So I would say, um, I think we've discovered that it is definitely a complicated, complex software. So maybe with a different software, the rolling it out wouldn't be as difficult, especially because at least on my end, I kind of have a good idea of what exactly we need and whatnot. Um, so I think it's a complicated thing because there's definitely some complexities to the back end of this in terms of like bookkeeping and stuff like Mark said, where it's just not really organized or convenient for us, especially on the point of sale side. It is really difficult for processing payments and stuff like that. So that's definitely the area we're looking to move on. There's another area to it though, where just operationally, in terms of like having a membership database and you know, um, knowing the structure of it, on the the pool staff side specifically, that you wouldn't want to just switch off of it without having a clear um, alternative setup that's going to produce the same results. And then on the membership side of it, like user friendly for the members, it's not necessarily user friendly. We've gotten to a point where, for the most part, the members know how to use it. It just has some features that, make it really difficult for people logging in. And, sometimes people aren't logging in for 6 months, and then it's hard for them to remember all the steps and whatnot, to go back in and purchase things. So those are kind of the three categories there. Um, I know there's probably a lot of features that will carry over into other softwares that will be very much similar that we won't be able to escape per se. So I think having good conversations with these alternative softwares to understand like how they can implement us and like how it'll work. I think I'm also just looking for some simplicity. I think there was a lot of detail in that was put into the starting up process of this pass software. So I think I'd like to avoid that a lot. I would also note that in terms of program registration, which is usually a part of all these softwares, um, we could be a little bit simpler on that. Our swim and dive team, they do two registrations right now. So in theory, their entire registration for those programs could be already processed through just Team Unify. So I would have to figure out the details on how that would work so it works for Village Hall as well. So that side could be done there. Separately, what we have already been doing with the swim lessons is the registration is through Sign Up Genius. And we have overall been able to turn that into a pretty good process. So we have kind of gone away at least a little bit from using what's built into the software. And from what I understand, that is just also what makes it complicated because I don't think there's a lot of other pools that like they use these softwares. And like with our current software, it was set up so if you didn't have a membership, like the system doesn't know you have a membership, you cannot sign up for these certain programs. So that I think was one difficult area that maybe some of these other softwares would also have trouble setting up for us is that restriction in terms of who can buy and purchase what, because some pools or some other recreation facilities, it's very much open to anybody to go in and purchase or register for certain things. So I would note that we can still do those things separate from whatever software we choose, and that will lessen some of the switching over pain, I think, because we already feel like we're in a good place with those two. Um, so yeah, those would be the what I'd note. Um, I'd assume, I don't know. I know this software we have currently is like a bigger software. So in terms of cost to the pool, I don't know if that will go up or down. It per year right now we were making it was about $4,500 per year for the 5 years we did it. Um, so I don't know with these other softwares if they're, if they're smaller or meant for smaller businesses and whatnot, if they'll have less of a cost or it will be more than that. So that's just as well. But I am kind of already, I've already started kind of forming a list of what to look into for different softwares um, as well. So I think and I'll just speak to this, I'll just say on the point of sale end, there is a route where we could run point of sale for our concession stands completely separate from whatever software we choose. And that could add some simplicity, but then again, you're using two separate softwares. So whatever software we go with, we want it to have a good point of sale system, and also something that gives us the ability to use modern equipment for credit card purchases as well. So,
Yeah, and I'm not sure I want to call for a vote tonight, only from the perspective that you've heard this is complicated. And I think we want to be comfortable, and particularly Dane wants to be comfortable that if we cancel this software and say we're moving on, that we have narrowed down, at least at that point, we're confident there's something else out there that's better. And I really believe there should be and will be, but I don't know it yet. And I'm also, mindful that Dane's got other stuff going on as well. So um, I want to make sure we get the committee input on this, but we can wait till next month's meeting to actually cast the vote on this issue, to give Dane maybe a little more time to be more confident. Yeah, I've got two or three out there. I'm very confident that one of them will work. And because we can't extend this for a year, that is an option. It's something we can live, we've lived with for 5 years, we can live with for 6. But I think from my point of view, I'm ready to move on once we're confident there's something else out there. So I've spoken enough about this. What are your all thoughts?
Um, I have my hand up, but I can just take it down. Yeah, I think that sounds like a good plan to me, Mark. I think Dane, a couple data points I would want at the next meeting would be if we do extend this current software for one more year, is that at the same price point, or is it renegotiated for some reason? I know looks like they were acquired at some point, so who knows what that'll look like. So I'd like to know, is it the same cost? And then number two, if we're looking around like I hear you, there's different things I think we're juggling with this, because on one hand, do we want an all-in-one solution, or if we chop this up into a couple different things, how would that be in terms of ease of implementation and cost as well? So I would just like to have the confidence that we do have an alternative, like something that's a workable alternative that might be in the same price point ballpark, because I would hate to put the pool in a place where actually now it's $10,000 to buy what we need and it's really expensive. And so maybe we should stay with this other software that maybe doesn't meet all of our needs or is more complicated in terms of the accounting piece. So I think those would be the two inputs. Number one, if we extend for a year, what are we looking at? Number two, what are some actual viable, like maybe option A, option B alternatives, just so we can kind of compare a little bit of like apples to apples as a committee.
Yeah. The other thing I point out is that the contract does include a provision that they will export to us our database. So all that membership information, I think it's just a spreadsheet, Excel file, whatever, that we would have to convert and import into the new package. But that is there. So other thoughts? Yes, Jesse.
The renewal terms say that it will be um, renewed at the same fee for the last year during the prior term, unless they've given us written notice of a pricing change. So if you haven't received any written notice of a pricing change, Dane, hopefully that's still $4,500, I guess, for next year.
Okay, that's good to know. Anything
Dane,
else?
Dane, do you feel like you could use some help to just like researching options or like just another pair of eyes on things? Or do you feel pretty comfortable and knowledgeable about searching for other comparable options?
Yeah, I may totally be open to assistance with that. I
Okay,
have some of my assistant managers have looked into it, and so they have provided me with like a pretty
that's
extensive
great.
list of
Nice.
not only like what the other pools in the area are using,
Yeah,
but just like what would be a good setup or what they think is a good software. So I have an initial list then to kind of start with on those. Um,
nice.
so yeah, and then the other thing I've kind of mentioned is again the idea of simplicity
Yeah,
is like I don't know if there's a route to do it, but I guess the cornerstone part of a membership software that is kind of the most important part to it, at least initially, is just the membership database and being able
yeah,
to purchase a membership under somebody. So if there was a way, there is many like really good point of sale systems out there that are much more
right.
simplistic. So it's almost even if there was a way to go with one of those, but still somehow have a software or something that gives us that ability to say, okay, this exact person has a membership that was purchased under their account.
Yeah,
Um, that would be another option because, like I said, you can already use that point of sale software for concessions. Separately, we
right.
already have the separate registration for swim and dive and the separate
Yep,
registration for lessons. So
yep.
that's a simple route, but then again, a whole cohesive software also provides a lot. So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice. Okay.
another thing that would make the process easier is we can think about, especially as Dane looks into the software, simplifying fee structures, simplifying the way we do things. I think one of the problems with Perfect Mind was that Shorewood is sort of different from other pools in the way we handle a lot of things. And trying to incorporate those features into Perfect Mind was difficult, kind of the square peg in the round hole sort of thing. And so as Dane goes through this, Dane, if you find, well, this looks like the perfect software, but they just can't do this one thing, then maybe we need to reconsider, do we really need to do that one thing? Or can we do things differently so that we can simplify the process and consider more packages rather than fewer packages as eligible for application to the pool?
yeah, and an example, I guess I will speak to that probably took lots of time and detail to implement in our current software, is the difference of resident rates and non-resident rates. So this software, in order to understand who is a village resident because they're paying a different rate, there's essentially a giant list of zip codes that it is given to determine that. So that would be something I don't know if other softwares have that or don't in terms of implementation. And so basically, the biggest thing would just be, making sure we're at a good point with something like that and it's set up in the new software before switching away to the next, because that would definitely um, cause some confusion. And I think that's just really the most important part of this. I think when we started with that last software, there was a lot of things that just were not user intuitive. And there is a lot of setup, and there's still a lot of things that aren't necessarily user intuitive that I spend a lot of time in March, uh, April, and May going into people's profiles, adding family members, fixing stuff like that, because there's just setups when they're registering where they're forgetting to check certain things, or they're just not easy to see. So it also something that takes away a bit of the administrative burden on that too.
Okay. So I think at this point, I'm going to move on the agenda because we will defer this issue. It'll be placed on the September agenda because I want to make sure there's time I'm time limited. I've got to get out of here about 6:30. But I want to make sure that there's time to talk about um, the pool building and the repairs, the Raymaker report, the Findorf report. And let me just set that up by saying we've entered the financial season in the village in terms of doing our budget and our capital investment program. So I'm thinking that the village board may be asked to approve the schedule for capital projects over the next 5 years at our September board meeting, and certainly no later than our October board meeting. And so I just want to make sure that as I engage with the board in those discussions and we consider the various projects that are before us, um, what is it the pool community would like to do? Um, and being realistic about it from the standpoint that we have some other, what I would say would be higher priorities in terms of renovation of village facilities, or you may have heard possible acquisition of a building in Marshall Square and Marshall Court. So those are things that we just need to bear in mind. But the Raymaker report gave us basically two versions. They gave us a renovation version. They gave us a total rebuild, new construction as well. It's kind of, I just want to get a sense of where the committee is on that so that I can share your views on that. And I don't know when the village will say that it has funding to do this project. But just being able to say what the project is, at least from the pool committee's point of view, would be helpful. The other thing is the CIP, the capital investment plan, had a $925,000 planned expenditure for the pool next year because we thought we'd be doing what I would call now a minor renovation. And now the question is, does that even make sense anymore? Does it make sense to put 925,000 into the pool if where we're headed on all this is a major renovation or a replacement that's going to cost $3.5 to $5 million? So that's my long introduction. I want to hear from you. Anyone?
I can give additional context on new
Go ahead.
updates too, if that's helpful.
Do it.
Okay. So we got the cost. The newest thing we got is like the cost estimates from Findorf, who was working with Raymaker. So basically, Mark can kind of probably speak better to me to the details in terms of that cost report. But basically, within that, there's just okay, if you were doing all the steps of a renovation, what that total cost estimates might be for certain categories, and then that same thing replicated for if you were doing a replacement of the building. So you'll see on that packet, basically, it's all sorted by the different portions of a project or subcategories. On that first page, then, under like opinion of probable cost, it gives like kind of the probable cost to replace the building, and then the probable cost to renovate it, adding those additional areas of square footage that they recommended in their original report. So other than that, they did get us a update today in terms of the square footage that was included in that. So the the one that's in the packet right now, there was some updates they send us on terms of square footage. So I think basically their new version, there's basically 8,000, what they're including in their estimates is 8,200 square feet total of replacement or renovated building. And after that 8,200, it's counting into account 800 square feet of balcony space. So in their two estimates for the renovation versus starting over, that's the square footage. So they just sent us some clarification on that today. I haven't had too much time to look into that. I as well did go into the Raymaker report. At the end of the Findorf report, there was like their whole breakdown summary that explained the different recommendations on their improvements in terms of like what should be done now, what should be done in a year, 2 years, 3 years. So I went through that, one of the versions of it that was in the report, and I looked at their now category and kind of sorted out what I thought to realistically be more important or be important to address now. Some of the things in their now category were now in terms of if you were pursuing the renovation or that was your plan. So I went through and kind of I don't have it in the packet, but I went through and made a list. So basically now I have an identified um, area or an identified list of things to work on based on the recommendations that kind of will need to be done either way or will benefit the pool regardless of whatever route we go um, with the building. Um, so yeah, other than that, then I think the the thing that looking to provide a kind of guidance onto the village administrator too is just the language that will be in the CIP, the capital improvement plan for the pool. So last year's version, it did outline that 900,000 amount for the pool, and in terms of talking about how it was for like actually executing the renovations that were planned for the year before. So my presumption would be just I'll be kind of working to or kind of provide them a different way of wording that. I don't know if that notes that what was there previously or whatnot. So that's one thing with that capital improvement plan. And then the second is we have already have the money that was borrowed in 2025. So with the Rainmaker report, that was $28,000 that was spent. So going forward, I believe it just kind of carries over. There is still 47,000 remaining to spend on future planning for any sort of project with the building and whatnot. Um, and the thing I guess I've been kind of looking into is obviously this seems to have some time in front of it in terms of what next steps and how many years that is out and everything. But I do think talking with Rainmaker, there is some sort of intermediate phase, at least in the short term, in terms of just understanding the site of the current pool building and like easements and stuff around that. And then also just kind of, like I said, forming an idea on the official kind of route to go and whatnot. And then Mark can speak to, there's still other areas outside of the pool building to that may make sense for capital investment as well, like the parking lot, and then the list I have of the more immediate repairs. So
So assuming any kind of major renovation or rebuild, replacement is going to be out a few years, we obviously have to keep the facility going until whatever that time is. So there will have to be some capital planned to be spent next year, the year thereafter, to keep the whole enterprise going until such time as, and that, I don't expect you're going to have necessarily a number for that. Dane will be working on that. I'll be working with him on that. So I think the really big question for the committee is, how do you want this project, which apparently will be several years out, how do you want me to describe that project? Do I describe it as a renovation of the existing facility? Do I describe it as something more dramatic, like you would like to see the whole structure come down and a new structure built? I understand you don't know what that structure looks like now, but that's kind of the big questions that I'm just interested in your input.
I'll go out on a limb and say that I think that there are few of us, but I don't know if everyone feels this way, who would love to, if it's possible, to do a fundraising campaign and somehow raise the money that would be required to totally re-envision the building and build a completely new one. I think we're also all realists, and so if it turns out that that's just not feasible, then I think a really top quality remodel to bring it up to obviously fix everything that's dated, but also really create a building that's super attractive and appealing to people would be, you know,
Yeah, and we saw that the renovation cost, at least as Rainmaker put it together, wasn't that all different from a tear down.
yeah, right.
And so
Yeah, so that's important to say too, I guess.
it's not a lot of money. And I know that was the view that you've expressed, that also Scott has shared that view that we're better off starting. And I will say, the whole second floor is in play because of the possibility of acquiring Logic, which has its own large community space. So
I wondered about
a lot of
that. Yeah.
balls in the air, and I'm not sure where we're going to end up. So,
Yeah.
what I think I will be doing is I will be expressing the view to the board that we need to sustain the facility until such time as we can make a major renovation. And Dana and I will have to work out exactly how much money that's going to cost and in which years. But, to finish the parking lot and to clean up the emergency, well, not emergency, but more serious problems that were revealed in the Rainmaker report. And then beyond that, though, not put any money into the facility and kind of husband that money until such time as we can really do this right. But that's just my view. Jesse, you have a thought about this?
Yeah, so I was I'm not a real experienced in new construction and building and remodeling, so I was surprised at the costs presented for the remodel because I guess I had it in my head based on the amount of money, roughly $1 million that's been set aside for renovations. That's kind of what I was assuming the renovations were going to cost. And so when this comes in and it's like substantially more, the difference between a rebuild and the reno was not as far apart as I was originally expecting. And I looked and it looks like the Ridgewood facility was also rebuilt for about $5 million as well. So it's kind of on par with that pricing as well. That was a few years ago now. That could be 20% different with different fees involved in 2025. But I guess just seeing the cost difference makes me leaning much more towards a rebuild as well, versus renovating an old structure for that kind of money. Um, I was, I'd be interested to know if we could start over and just, dream what a new building would look like and how different it would be from the current structure. Because at the same time, like if it's going to look exactly the same, maybe it does make more sense to just renovate what we have and save $1.5 million or whatever it's going to be. But maybe it won't look that different. Maybe it won't. Maybe it would be very, very different. And then I echo your thoughts about just putting in what's necessary, with an eye towards certainly doing something major in the coming near term, a few years. Don't put a lot of this money that's been allocated this budget season. Don't spend it all. Just do what we have to fix safety concerns and real, obvious concerns that this report has revealed, but maybe don't spend too much of that on it yet. If it's
Yeah,
all going to get torn down in a couple years anyway.
exactly. Exactly.
Um, I was, I was just gonna mention meeting with Rainmaker. Like, there was like routes we discussed in terms of like how they viewed the current building. So they mentioned like that, like the basement of the building. They seem to at least be uh have a positive thought on the foundation of the basement of the building. So I think at least included in their estimates and whatnot. They kind of planned on re-including the current basement within a new building. So they did not seem like that wouldn't be possible because presumably that basement is almost the most complicated part of once you actually are building a new building or tearing down the building or whatnot in terms of just how it affects the operation of the physical pool. So they did mention that. The other thing they mentioned was like the idea of if you did the recommended um additions in their renovation. I'm just talking about the additions. And then they said you could even like, tear down the old part then and then build new and add with those existing add-ons already there. So those were just some kind of like ideas they mentioned to us that are also, we're thinking about in terms of the detail of starting over and whatnot. But
At this point, unfortunately, I have this other meeting. So Julie, what I'm suggesting is that I think we're going to call this meeting to a close, but there are 3 members of the committee. That's not a quorum. I'm hoping that you can continue the conversation without me. And all of, what, I'm sorry, Julie?
No, we will have to adjourn if we don't have a quorum.
No, exactly. What I guess I'm proposing is that we adjourn, okay, so that I can make my other meeting, get ready for it, and make my other meeting, but that the Zoom call could continue. It's not a meeting. It's only 3 members of the committee. It's not a quorum. And you can continue to explore this. And then the committee members or Kate, you can bring me up to speed. Anything that I missed, anything else, and you can obviously raise it directly in the board meeting. So you have your own voice. But I guess that's what I'm proposing at this point.
Okay,
If that's okay with you, Julie.
We will need to adjourn the meeting though.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's what I'm proposing, is that we adjourn the meeting now, but the call for those who wish to remain on and discuss this, that the call could go on. Is that possible?
I will have to stay here to monitor the call.
Okay. Well, I don't think it'll be a long time, but I know that
Okay.
it's a big issue and I want to make sure you all have an opportunity to speak on it. So,
Hey, Mark, can I just ask one clarifying question before you
Yeah.
leave? Of the 925K that we've earmarked in next year's budget, let's just say we only use 100K of it next year to like do some of the updates, right? Would
Yep.
we be able to repurpose that? Would those dollars then be released to the overall village to say, okay, we'll use that 800K to do X thing over here? Am I correct? We don't just lose that money, right?
well, the way it works is the numbers that are sort of hard coded in the 2025 budget from the 2025 CIP, they're budgeted. So those numbers will, if we don't spend all that, like we're not going to spend the full 75,000 on the Raymaker project, we've only spent 28, that will carry over, okay? But that's just the 47,000. That's the smaller part of it. With respect to the money that's been scheduled for 26 through 29, all that is up to the board. They can move any of that money
I see.
anywhere
Okay.
they want. So if they want to increase the amount of the pool, they want to reduce it, they have total discretion on that point. So, I mean, we talk like it's locked in and committed to the pool, but the reality is the board could step in at any time and say, whoops, something's come up. We got to take some money from you and put it into something else. So, yeah, so you should view this as like total discretion. One thing I want to confirm with Julie, our treasurer, is that 47,000 will carry over from this year, the surplus, if you will, carry over. But my understanding, everything beyond that is up for grabs. It's going to be a wide-ranging discussion on the part of the board about what to do. And this is just one piece of it. So anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and make the motion then that to adjourn the meeting. And if someone will second it so that I can make my other
I'll
meeting.
second
Thank
it.
you, Kate. So that's the motion. All in favor, please raise your hand or say aye. Thank you very much. Julie, the meeting is officially closed out, but I'm hoping that you can keep the Zoom session going as long as the members and Dane are available and interested in doing it.
Sure, I can keep it open. I'll have to stay here, so it's fine.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. I'll catch you all later. We'll definitely see you at the end of September and continue the conversation.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Yep, bye-bye.
Awesome.
Julie, I can let you complete whatever you need to do on your end before too. So
Well, I'll have to end the meeting here, so I'll have to wait.
oh, okay.
And I'm okay with waiting, like with talking more in the next meeting. I feel like we kind of all, I feel like I'm good as far as sort of where things stand now. I feel like we still need a little more info and
I would just say we didn't hear from you, Kate, if you wanted to offer your opinion on it.
Yeah, yeah.
before we have the-
No, I mean, Katie, I think you summed it up well, and Jesse, I don't disagree either with what you said. So I'm totally in alignment. And I know Scott at the last meeting was pretty vocal about
yeah,
leaning more of a rebuild. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know where Kelda is on it, but I would assume she'd be
Yeah.
more in that camp.
that's my
Honestly.
guess because we've talked informally about it and
Yeah.
sort of kind of what she kind of envisioned, if you were
Exactly.
dreaming. Yeah, yeah.
My one question, so I'm aligned. I think we're all pretty much on the same page. There's just like some missing pieces maybe. And
Yeah.
Dane, do